following episode was recorded during the 2021 pandemic lockdown. My inaugural guest today is Ify Nwokoro. Iffy is a personal speaker, an advocate, a disability spokesperson, a blogger, and most recently a YouTuber. In 2010, Iffy was involved in a car crash that left him clinically paralysed from the shoulders down. After coming to terms with his injury, Iffy now manages his own care whilst also raising awareness for the NHS for people in similar circumstances. In 2015, Iffy started the blog mylifeinachair.com, which has been featured by Social Work England, the Great North Air Ambulance, and numerous live media and spoken word organisations. Today, Iffy is my guest on the Life Hub podcast to bring his story, experience, and wisdom that he shares so well through the written and spoken word. Iffy, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So that was quite a truncated introduction, but we made it. We made it to the end. Welcome.
Finally, yeah. It's all good.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. I had a bit of a busy day, but just regular errands around the house, like shopping and stuff. I've got family coming over this weekend, so I'm just getting food and stuff in the fridge.
Great. And where are your family coming from? Are they travelling far?
Well, Nottingham.
Have you got to see them much over the past little while? Because obviously we're recording this at the end of a global pandemic, and
Yeah,
life changed for a lot of people.
definitely. I haven't seen them. It's going to be my first time seeing them in person since Christmas 2019.
Wow.
That was the last time I was able to see them. Yeah. Because
Wow.
even before lockdown started, like I was struggling with some health issues and I was stuck in bed, so I wasn't really getting visitors then. And then lockdown hit, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's gonna be my first time seeing them in well over a year.
Yeah, and obviously, look, as I mentioned in the introduction, you are clinically paralysed, and I know that
Yeah.
you're more than happy to talk about that. We'll get
Yep.
into that a bit later. So how has your injury, I suppose, affected the coronavirus situation for you?
Well, so obviously the big difference in my experience as opposed to the average person out there is I'm considered high risk for like suffering from the virus, that sort of thing. Which means I was shielding throughout most of lockdown, throughout all the different lockdowns. In fact, that that's even more unique with my experience was how that sort of like fitted into my life. As I said earlier, I was already on bed rest with health issues, like unrelated health issues, before lockdown started,
Sure.
like since Christmas, and I wasn't able to get up until April. So
Wow.
2 months into lockdown was the first time I actually got up. So while everyone was in the height of like emptying the shelves of toilet roll and pasta and all that kind of random nonsense, I was just happy to be out of bed.
Yeah.
I took a few months there to just like finally get my head around the idea that okay, yeah, I'm not stuck in bed anymore. And then I'd say just as lockdown is starting to like hit me a little, we came out of the first lockdown, and I was able to use that time, the time I'd spent towards the end of the first lockdown, and the little bit of time after that first lockdown to like just dive into work really. Yeah, and to be honest, it's been the momentum from then has just kept going. And it's probably been this last 12 years, oddly enough, has been probably the best year for my career so far,
Brilliant. And
considering it started off in lockdown.
that's phenomenal. And it's really interesting there that while you're on bed rest and unable to leave a single room, I suppose,
Yeah.
There's a lockdown happening, and are you kind of aware of it, but not really feeling it?
Yeah, well, I only knew the intensity of it from those around me.
Sure.
Obviously, I had carers and a couple of family members I was with at the time. All of us like in our own bubble,
Yeah.
and it was like the stress and distress on the carers' faces, worrying about their kids and that sort of thing, and worrying about coming into contact with each other and finding out the unique regulations for essential workers, frontline workers like them, that sort of thing, and then
Yeah.
how to also still provide that protection for them, that kind of thing. So as much as well, the unique situation of my life, I'm the client and the employer. So as much as I was worrying, to be on how to be as safe as possible by like for myself, I was also having to like organize PPE, organize like put policies in place, that sort of thing,
Sure.
to make sure that all the staff are keeping as safe from each other, that sort of thing, and
Yeah.
then like things they have to sort of make sure they're doing outside of work, so um minimizes the risk of them bringing it in. But yeah, it was through them that I sort of got the vibe of how it was out there, and as the world seemed to burn down.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I left the house. I, yeah, I wrote a blog about it actually. I wrote a post about it. Um, it was literally just to like get fuel, and well, I didn't come out the car. I had my mask on throughout, and it was surreal seeing people queue at Tesco, at the Tesco filling station, just like just people just queuing, and like the 2 meter gaps and that kind of. Oh, it was just a bit weird because obviously the last time I'd seen outside my house, life was normal. I
Sure.
didn't see the build up to that. It was just people just not going near each other now.
Yeah. I think you described it as like walking into Armageddon.
Yeah. Waking up in the end of the world.
That's it. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is, I think, a really vivid description. Which brings us kind of nicely onto the blog,
Yeah.
mylifeinachair.com. You've been at this for 4 or 5 years, and I think to say it's taken off is downplaying it. It's a phenomenal blog with a unique insight into the world and into how to live life as positively as possible. So, where did the inspiration come from to start the blog?
Um. Right. First of all, thank you. That's high praise. Um. So like I kind of wanted to do something related to like the accident and my disability and that sort of thing for a few years. But like obviously the first few years after the injury, I was not in the right headspace, that sort of thing. I tried in was that in 2013 or 2014, and I spoke to my brother about it. I did start a blog then. I've tried to erase from the internet, right? At the moment, but he was the one who pointed out something really important to me. He said, "What are you gonna write about?" And I told him, "Yeah, I write about the accident or about my disability." And he's like, "Okay, so you write about the accident and the fact that you're disabled and what disabilities are. What's that sort of like 3, 4 posts maybe? But what is the blog about?"
Sure.
And I was like, "Oh, that was sort of like um the light bulb moment where okay, I need to have like a reason behind it." So I took a step back, tried to sort of discover myself, as cliche as that sounds. I just find out what exactly I wanted to do, and then I started um volunteering. No, volunteering was 2017, but I started volunteering at Teesside University. I speaking to students, speaking in lectures, classes, workshops, seminars, that kind of thing. Just telling my story and getting involved with a few other bits like interviews, the new students coming in,
Sure.
um, both undergraduate and masters. I got involved with some like course planning and that sort of thing, and it became really clear that okay, my experiences could inform a lot of positivity in terms of good practice from a healthcare perspective. But then, obviously, like one big piece of feedback I always got was like how positive I was and how well I was taking things, but that wasn't my reality or the way I saw it. I didn't
Okay.
realize that anyone would be seeing that way because that's not the way I saw it. Because
Okay.
obviously it pointed out to me the more I did those talks. So one of the first things that came to my head was if I'm not seeing this, chances are other people in my shoes might not be seeing their progress. if they are making progress, because I know there's a while I wasn't making progress. Okay, that could be the purpose. That could be something where I put my energy into, and then the blog came organically out of that.
Brilliant.
Um, is some not long after I started the blog, I started volunteering at James Cook Hospital, on the same spinal unit where I got treated, and that's kind of like the epitome of what I'm trying to do. Go in, talk to people, go through what I've been through, that sort of thing. That almost the blog almost became second to that in terms of what I'm trying to do. And then the flip side, where the blog comes in really handy, is also teaching people who aren't disabled about disability, that sort of thing. So it's kind of like two sides of the same coin.
Sure.
People with disability learning how to better deal with it, and then people without disability sort of being able to relate to us, really. Yeah, I think that's how the blog started.
That's fantastic. So getting back into it then,
Yeah,
I think the blog as well, it does all of those things, but when we met back in 2014, 2015,
yeah,
all I could see was this happy, hardworking business person, quite frankly, because you manage and run your own care as a business,
yeah, yeah.
which is phenomenal. But I didn't see the internal kind of the imagination, the thoughts, the feelings of what it's like to be in your shoes. And I thought what the blog did really, really well was give that personal touch as well. It's a very
Yeah.
personal blog as well as it is practical, educational, So, and I think that's the what makes it so successful is that it is your personality in word form as well.
Oh, thank you.
So I, I suppose as well, like at the start, you wanted to kind of talk about the accident, how it happened, and what that was like for you. And I know that you're one of, I'm not sure I'd ever be the same here, but you are very happy to talk about the accident and what
Oh,
led
yeah.
you to be in the situation. So I mentioned in the introduction for context, you were in a car accident in
Mm-hmm.
2010.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to that, you were a completely healthy young man,
Mm-hmm.
and you'd come to England to study
Yep.
and to start your life, to enter the adult world.
Pretty much. Yeah. I was second year at university when
Wow,
that
yeah,
happened. Yeah. That was so. Okay. So what? At the time the accident happened, in fact, let's say the day before, 24 hours before the accident happened, I was in second year at university. I was studying animation. I played basketball. I mean, I took it quite seriously. I wasn't exactly the greatest player, but I was on the university team. I helped run the team as well. Like I was on the committee that ran the team, so I was like quite athletic at the time. Um, I worked behind the bar at the student union, quite social. I was a school rep. Well, in my head at the time, I had a lot going for me. Well, at that
sure,
stage of my life, anyway, being a university student, I was just enjoying that university experience. And then, the accident. There were five of us in the car. We were all going to a basketball game. It was a team. I wasn't playing that day, but I was going to watch my friends play. It was a team I was going to try out for, and wanted to meet Leona and that kind of thing. But really exciting. And there was three of us at the back, two in the front. On the motorway, we're going full speed, and the driver sort of lost control of the wheel, and yeah, we spun off the side. The car rolled a couple of times, and yeah, once everything sort of calmed down, like it was kind of clear that some stuff wasn't right.
okay,
I looked fine. The guy next to me, like his head had gone through the window, and like he was bleeding and wasn't that responsive. Um, so my worry was him, and I sort of laid on him. So I got concerned. I didn't want to move too much,
sure,
but I didn't. It's only in hindsight I realized I probably did try moving, didn't get any response, and just thought, okay, maybe I'm wedged or something somewhere.
Okay.
But I was thinking I wasn't moving because I wasn't trying to move that much.
Sure.
Um, Eventually I did try and like get up, and yeah, that's when the panic set in.
Okay.
Because like nothing was happening, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, 6 months in hospital after that. Well, I got airlifted straight from the crash site to James Cook Hospital, got operated on, I believe immediately. And then, like, I can't remember what other procedures were in those first few days, but the first time I remember being conscious was like 3 days in. And doctors came in and sort of like gave me the diagnosis. This is what it's going to be. It's permanent. And at that point, it's not even denial. It's just, well, something bad has happened. I've been injured. Fine, understandable. But like, I'm in the hospital to get better, so that's
Sure.
going to happen. As time went on, and like, no one is talking in terms of this being temporary. Then the denial started setting and that kind of thing, and going through all the stages of grief, or if you want to call it that. I
Yeah.
don't even know what the stages are, but I'm sure I went through all of them twice. Um, but yeah, intensive care for a month thereabout, and 5 months into all in rehab, and that's actually where it started getting difficult. It's quite ironic. And I've said this a million times. In other places, I'm sure it's on my blog somewhere. I didn't feel any of it. Like I didn't feel any pain
Okay.
when the crash happened, because the connection like to my brain was cut off before I could feel any of the pain whatsoever. That sort of thing. The
Wow.
actual like physical trauma started in rehab,
Okay.
because my body, the way it worked was my body sort of kept going with what it could,
Okay.
like as time went on, but as it got weaker and it wasn't getting like exercise, it wasn't like the muscle started like I started losing muscle mass, that kind of thing.
Sure.
My lungs started to get strained. Then I started like struggling breathing, and they had to get a tracheostomy. Um, Started feeling the full effects of what spinal cord injury is and
Yeah.
what my life could have looked like. To be
Sure.
honest, I'm quite lucky at my level of injury. It's quite common to have tracheostomy permanently,
Okay.
tube sticking out your neck, that sort of thing. And I was lucky to just not need that long term. But yeah, I've got to like manage my chest, my breathing, what I eat, and how much exercise I get, and yeah, it's just the whole. I maintain my body like it's a Formula One car. Every day it's in the pit stop, and then
Yeah.
I take it for a run,
Yeah.
and I get out of bed and
Yeah.
see what it's like when I get back in.
Yeah. Are you saying that you're high maintenance?
Yeah, funny enough, I can't even like deny that. Yes, like it is high maintenance, but like not because of me. It's like that's
Sure.
just the case with the disability.
Right.
And with a lot of disabilities, it's one of those cases of the idea of someone being in a wheelchair is seen as the disability, but obviously you can be in a wheelchair for a bunch of different reasons,
Sure.
and all of those reasons have their own sort of repercussions, side effects, daily issues, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's those daily issues that like people don't really get to see, and yeah, that those form like what I do like behind closed doors and my like before I head out to that kind of thing
Yeah.
every day and I get back in, that sort of thing. So there is a lot to do just to keep head above water, that sort of thing.
Awesome. And so, how on a normal day, how does your disability affect you as a result of this crash?
So, my disability is C4 quadriplegia, and that's basically fourth spinal column, which is sort of like the base of my neck.
Yeah.
And what's it called? Quadriplegia. I can't use any of my limbs, so
Yeah.
I can like shrug my shoulders and sort of like lift my arm up, but on both sides like that. But
Yeah.
other than that, like I can't use my fingers. I can't move my wrists at all.
Sure.
So technically, I can't hold anything. I can't really do much myself. So the day really starts with me getting hoisted out of bed, into a shower chair, like basically assistance with all of that, getting washed. I'm getting dressed in the morning, getting put in my chair, and then once I'm in this bad boy, pretty much free to roam around as much as I want within the house. Depending on what I'm doing, like going out shopping today, that's I've got a wheelchair accessible vehicle. So if I was going to go anywhere, I'd have to use that vehicle or
Sure.
use a vehicle with a ramp or some sort, that sort of thing, and then um have one of my carers drive me. If I've got a family member who can drive as well, that's always an option, or friends even. My insurance is like a blanket insurance. You
Okay.
just have to be within a certain age range. But yeah, so that's how I get like out and about, like wherever I'm going, that sort of thing. Longer the distance, the more I consider like trains and that sort of thing. But then things like using my computer, like right now, for instance, the grey dot on my nose. I don't know
Sure.
if you noticed that.
Yeah.
Um, that's like part of like the tech that sort of helps me you be able to use my computer. I got this is there's a bunch of them on the market. This one's called the Smart Nav,
Okay.
and I got it while I was in hospital. It was basically like, yeah, how I use my laptop and kept me going because, like, Jesus Christ, I went through so many movies in those 6 months, that sort of thing. But then getting out, um, being discharged afterwards, I was able to go back to university. And if not for this, I wouldn't have been able to do that because it's a mouse, and so anything you can do
Yes.
with a mouse, I should be able to do to some extent at least. That and an on-screen keyboard helps me with everything computer based. So the blog,
Yeah.
YouTube, all of
Yeah.
that's all through this
That's
little
brilliant. And so
device.
you direct a mouse on a screen using your nose essentially.
Yeah, yeah. So like as I've been talking, the mouse has just been dancing around the
Yeah.
screen, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That.
it's kind of it's it can be a bit annoying because there's a little like panel with like the different clicking options, and I've got to disable that. Like now when I'm talking, when I'm using it, it will just keep it'll click if I hover over something for long enough, which is like less than a second. So if I'm currently like typing or currently clicking through something and
Mm,
someone talks to me, I've got to just keep shaking my head a bit. I look like there's something wrong with me. I just keep doing that.
okay.
It
Yeah.
doesn't click,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But yeah, with the mouse I can yeah use the computer as much as I want.
That's brilliant. Assistive technology is advancing so
Oh,
quickly as well. So
yeah,
you know,
definitely.
the more we have people like you that are kind of very open about advocacy and disability awareness, the more assistive technology advances as well. Um,
Yeah.
I was really interested actually in one of the blog posts, and it reminded me of something you were mentioning about the old you versus the new you.
Right. Yeah.
So, because what I hear when you talk about your life before your accident, in
Hmm.
many ways is very similar to the life you've got now. You are very busy. You're ambitious. You've got tons of projects on the go, and
Yeah.
um, but there is a difference. So
Definitely. Definitely.
what is different about the new you versus the old you?
So the old me did a lot of things, had a lot going for himself without realizing it and pretty much taking it for granted. The new me is fully aware of what those things are, how they've come into place, how well maybe not fully aware of how best to use them, but is actively trying to learn that sort of thing. Like before the accident, I was just going through life, and I'm not in any negative sense per se, but just the same way. Well, you just live your life. I mean, from from school, you get to secondary school. From secondary school, you get into university. If you choose to do so, from there you get a job, and that I was just on that path, that sort of thing. If I met someone, then I met someone. If I didn't, then I didn't, like that kind of thing.
Sure.
Um, the accidents basically forced me to be aware of a lot of those things. So I mean, look, so I'll talk about this in the blog a bit. Um, the the moment a lot of things changed, it felt completely like a loss. So I had to then come to a place where I'm like, okay, if I'm going to actually make anything of this, like life, like it's worth living. Like it has to be that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Kept telling myself that, but I don't know why yet. So it's
Okay.
just a case of finding out why. Why was it worth living before? Went through all the things that I felt like I'd lost. Went through everything that I still had, and I still have till today. And it was a case of then picking out what things do I want to keep, what things can I keep, and if I can't keep things that I want to, how do I replace them? Or can I modify things to the more suitable way for this new version of me?
Sure.
That sort of thing. And that took a while. So how you said I was quite like a happy, positive guy when we met. Um, that was probably towards the end of, well, not the end. I mean, still got ongoing now. But if I use the starting the blog as a time when I was like, okay, I know what I want to do with my life going forward. That was towards the end of that time.
Okay.
So I had a fairly good idea of where I wanted to be and where I had been. I had to shed a lot of the things I thought were priorities. Because okay, so I mentioned I played basketball. I can't remember what, but a lot of the things that I valued about myself were things that were tied to my physical ability.
Okay.
Not that that's anything wrong, but
Sure.
all of that went out the window once the accident happened. So it then became a case of if I'm going to find new things, not only do they have to replace the old things in terms of how much I get out of those, I'll get out of them, or how much satisfaction I get from them. I also need to feel safe knowing that they can't be that easily taken away. So my priorities have now become much stronger in terms of being a good foundation for how I see myself, my value, my self worth, that sort of thing. So around that time we met, um, like that's when like my focus on things like family,
Yeah.
the friends I have around me, like it went through the roof in terms of being like top of the list of priorities, and then sort of building around that. And to be honest, like I think that says something about um like how I saw you as a friend, because I tried as much as possible not to be around people who not so much weren't positive, but who weren't um like naturally just or passively positive, just in their everyday life, just they were just positive people, that sort of thing. Um, any sort of like form of negativity, and that it could be that people were going through a rough time, that kind of thing. But I recognize I was fragile, in terms of being able to like soak up some of that negative energy. So
Okay.
as much as possible, I tried to avoid that. Or if I came across someone like that, I'd sort of switch into I call Uncle Iffy mode, where
Okay.
I'm giving advice and helping out, that kind of thing. But I'm
Yeah.
trying as possible not to let the negativity rub off on me, that kind of thing. Obviously, some of it will. I'm human.
Mm.
I'm only human. But yeah, it made me very, very, very aware of how I navigated like my social
Yeah.
life, I navigated like my career, and just everything, what it meant to be me and live my life, that sort of thing. So yeah, big difference between old me and new me is a lot more aware of what makes me me.
That's brilliant. Um, and that meaning and purpose that you spoke of, that doesn't really change. So just you've had an injury, or maybe it does, because you thought then and nodded your head. So maybe it has changed a bit, but meaning and purpose are what drives human beings, right?
Hmm.
So, and it doesn't matter whether you're a able-bodied person or disabled.
Yeah,
If you don't have meaning or purpose in your life, you're not going to have a happy life. So,
true.
through many different projects and the way that you've approached the situation that you found yourself in, you've found a meaning and purpose.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. I mean, there are a lot of things. So, what you said about that purpose, like changing or not, yeah, the core of it is still the same,
Yeah.
but it it has to evolve as I evolve.
Okay.
So when I first figured out, okay, I wanted to do something along the lines of disability awareness and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
How exactly it was going to happen wasn't something I was certain about. when I decided it was the blog. Okay, started writing the blog, and then started discovering, okay, these are the people it's reaching. This is the effect it could have. That's meant it had to evolve into me actively using um like the power of the blog itself,
Yeah,
specifically like as a blog and that kind of thing, not just the general thing of um general purpose of I want to spread disability awareness, that kind of thing. How would a blog specifically spread the most disability awareness and most effectively do that? So evolved a little. When I started getting involved with the speaking, um that was also different. That's very different from like the written word, and that's something you write beforehand and like people reading their own time. I'm talking in person now, so I had to learn to speak about things in a certain way, that kind of thing. A bit more evolution there. I need to learn to put things in words in a situation where I'm speaking those words live. And then when the opportunity came for YouTube, that's when I'm still learning. I'm still very, very new to that. Um, it's not the same as being sat in front of someone. It
sure.
is speaking and putting things into words. But it's not pre-written, and it's a whole different like kettle of fish. And then even speaking to people at the hospital, volunteering, I'm doing the same thing in the grand scheme of things, disability awareness, helping them be more aware of their disability, if you want to word it that way. But I'm not going to talk to someone who's lying in the hospital bed, probably thinking that, well, not thinking, knowing their life has changed forever. In the same way, I would write about what they're going through or what I've gone through. So, adding in that empathy,
Yeah,
recognizing what they're talking about, sometimes just being the listening ear, sometimes learning from them and things that they've done in a way that I feel could have been better. So another bit of evolution there. So yeah, it's the same. It's the same overall purpose, but how it sort of manifests itself has to evolve with time. As I evolve, the better I get at it, the more I can do with it, the
sure.
more I should do with it. The more I do with it, the more things change. Like that kind of thing. It's a domino effect, and who knows? Maybe one day that overall purpose itself would change into something else that I'm more suitable to do. But I'd say the important thing is I needed to discover how I could manifest my purpose
Sure.
as the person I was back then. Because if I didn't do that, I would not have gotten to the stage I am now. Because the things I can do now are definitely like way different from the things I was doing back then. But I can do a lot more than I could do back then. But I wouldn't have been able to do any of that if I hadn't taken the steps I took back then, that kind of thing. And I feel like I'm repeating myself now, but yeah,
Not at
uh,
all.
yeah,
No, so that's a really really good point about your purpose and meaning fundamentally on a deep level being the same, but it evolves over time and changes. Um, you've mentioned family quite a lot, and I know we've spoken in the past about someday you might want to have a family potentially,
yeah.
and you've spoken in the blog as well about one way that the old and new Iffy changed was the way that you had to approach romance and relationships.
Hmm.
And I know that you're happy to talk about this, which is why I'm
That's
bringing it
fine.
up. So I suppose from your perspective, you were dating someone when you had your accident.
Um, so at the time of the accident itself, um, I was kind of in a funny place relationship wise, but I'd say yeah, for what's important. At the time I was in hospital, I did have my partner with me, that sort of thing. Um, And yeah, we were together for a bit. And then I started dating someone else not long after getting discharged, and it's a whole different kind of fish because
Sure,
um, the person I was with at the time I was in hospital, I had been with before the injury, but I wasn't the same person anymore. So
sure,
like that had to change in its own way. The person I was after the no, the person I was in the early years of my injury, it's not the same person I was like a few years down the line.
sure.
So the relationship I was with in at the time, like that had to change. Either we evolved in the same way or alongside each other, or like it had to end. And that's kind of how that went. And then I've since, I'd say, well, in the last 9 years ish, I haven't had that much with regards to like being in a serious relationship. I think I've been in one, but like a big part of that is, well, it started off with obviously the difficulties that are now like I now have to face with regards to dating. But then I was talking to someone.
I was going to
Go on.
say that. Sorry to interrupt there. I was just going to say
Sorry.
that something like this kind of subject must really make you confront your
Yeah,
disability
it makes
because,
you really think about how exactly you're approaching finding a partner, and how exactly you see yourself, and in terms of like romance, and like how someone else might see you, what you bring to the table, that kind of thing, how what's your appeal, that sort of thing. And then also really thinking about what I'm looking for in a person as well. So it was it was difficult at the start because of like all the new things I had to learn how to navigate. Now it's almost 50-50 between those things and my own personal choices. There's a lot of things that I see in my head as essential for a relationship, and it, without mentioning words, it makes you very picky.
yeah. So your
With,
standards haven't dropped just because your life has
oh,
changed.
mm, I wouldn't say they've dropped or they've risen. I'd say they've changed.
Sure.
So, typical 20-year-old, the things I was thinking were important in a partner. Well, what did I know? At 20, I had very like misconstrued ideas of um what I wanted in a partner, that kind of thing. Now it's gone more, shifted a bit more to what I need in a partner than what I want.
Okay.
So I haven't changed. Like my tastes haven't changed that much in terms of like, say, if we're talking about appearance wise. Um, Maybe in some ways. And that's bound to come with age. But then with regards to like, if I met someone today, what would make me consider them like
Mm,
someone I'd like to be in a relationship with?
sure.
Yeah, that question is not, it's not something I actively contemplated before the injury. After the injury, well, if we talk about people coming with baggage, like I've got a whole airport full of baggage, that kind of thing. So I've got to have someone who's obviously understanding of that, firstly, and then on the second part, someone who can actually handle a lot of that, because it's not everyone's cup of tea. And there've been relationships that have literally stopped before they've started because one of those two things weren't there. They weren't able to handle the like everything that comes along with me, or um they weren't willing. That's all. And none of that is things like I hold against anyone.
Yeah.
I understand it's like it's tricky. It's not easy. It's a lot to ask someone to take on, bring into their own life.
Mm.
And yeah, so it's a complicated kettle of fish.
But it's interesting that you say that because someone that is willing and is able to, in your words, help handle your situation, that is the red line, and that is someone that is not only the right person for you, but is deserving of a relationship with you.
That's a really good point. Yeah. The idea of someone who is able to be in a relationship with me, and someone who is deserving of being in a relationship with me. Because like I said before, one thing the accident changed for me is forcing me to be aware of my own values and my own self worth, and
Yeah,
what I would bring to the table. Say if it was something like a podcast,
yeah,
or if I was giving a talk or something, or if I was to get a new job, or if I was to get into a relationship with someone, what would I be bringing to the table? I'm quite aware of what those things are. I'm very very aware of what I can't bring to the table. Um, but yeah, so if I was with someone, that would be something I'm actively thinking of. Do I Not so much that I want them to deserve me or what I bring to the table, but I don't know. That makes it sound like, oh, like I think so highly of myself. You have to earn this, and
Well,
that is
no,
true to some extent.
you,
Because
every person has to set their standards and
yeah, yeah, true, true,
and be comfortable with that, because
yeah.
that ties into your own sense of self-worth and your own self-esteem. People with low self-esteem enter relationships that are not good for them.
You've put in better words than I would have. Yeah, that's exactly it. Um, I don't want to get into a relationship just because someone is available. That's doing myself a disservice. I'm doing them a disservice.
Yeah,
As if it's not someone that there's that mutual attraction, connection, with, then well, I'm just torturing myself and the person. It's not someone who, like, someone could be very willing to deal with things, but might not be able.
yeah,
Someone could be very able and not willing. There's a whole bunch of things that sort of stick in that red line, of things that sort of need to be in place for a relationship. And yeah, where possible, like, I understand concessions have to be made. There has to be compromise in any relationship, and but well, it comes down to the person. So with every chance I get to possibly start a new relationship, yeah, that's a discussion like we have in depth, that sort of thing, and something that I don't shy away from. The fact that I actively try and begin that conversation, not as early as possible, but at some point we'll be discussing, like, how does this really affect you? Would you be able to, like, put in scenarios in front of both of us, and it might be a case of they don't give me the answer I was expecting, but they give an answer that works, and I'm like, okay, I'd never thought of it that way, that sort of thing. So yeah, like, yeah, I'm willing to um see where I need to I could compromise, that sort of thing, or how I could work with what someone else brings to the table, but
sure.
I don't know what that is until I actually meet the person.
Yeah. And underneath all of that, of course, is if the person wants it and is able for it,
Yeah,
then it's worth compromising.
yeah, definitely,
Great.
definitely.
Phenomenal. Let's change tack slightly, because
Right?
your blog covers multiple topics, from travel to life advice, and I know that and a theme that is running through the blog is your superpower. And I know that you like comic books
Yep,
and
yep, very much
superheroes.
so.
So tell
Yeah.
me about the superpower.
So the whole superpower thing, um, it's sort of, I think calling it a superpower, looking at it that way, came around the time I posted that, like, I uploaded that particular post.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh shit, it's, oh, pardon my language.
No, you're right.
It was like, oh, it hit me like that's how I see this. Everybody has, like, the secret superpower, as I call it. Um, Everyone has the ability to make change. Everyone has the ability to create things that aren't that out of thin air. Like, you could come in and you can step into a room and completely annoy everyone by just starting to sing in the worst possible voice you can. You've created an emotion that wasn't there in that room before you walked in, like that kind
Yeah.
of thing. Or if
Okay.
you then, like, scale that out to the decisions you make in life, no matter how small or big, decisions you make with in relationships, whether that's with family, friends, with your partner, that kind of thing, or in work, or with a work colleague, or decisions you make in your career. All of that has ripple effects that weren't necessarily there before you made them. So we all have the power to create something, to create something, yeah.
Okay.
So what we create is something that a lot of people don't pay attention to. So um society kind of teaches us to be very individualistic. um we do what makes us happy. When we're
Yeah.
upset, we show we're upset, and then hopefully something makes us feel better, and then we act better after something's made us feel better, and that sort of thing. um but if we acknowledge, first of all, that we all have that power, we have the power to make someone's life or ruin someone's life with a few words, and that's just one example. if we all acknowledge that and then pay a bit more attention to what we're using that power for, not just use it passively by walking through
Okay.
life without like eyes shut, that kind of thing. Um, that could very well dictate, not dictate, well, you dictate what effect you have on people, what effect you have on the world around you, or what effect you have on other lives. And it's like being in water. The ripples you send out get bounced off others and come back to you in some other form, that kind of thing. I'm not
Sure.
talking about harm or anything, but literally, if you tell someone something, they're gonna respond um based on what you said, and based on what you said determines their response. Their response to you determines the next thing you say to them.
Sure.
It's like a conversation of actions and emotion, that kind of thing. Um, so yeah, that superpower is basically the effect we have on the whole world and the world around us, but it's very passively used with how the average person lives their life, if
Mm.
you can say that. So my whole thing with that ideology is, how do I actively use my superpower in a way that I want to? Some people might decide they don't want to help anyone, they want to completely do things for themselves. Yeah, but at least they're aware that they have the ability to do that. I think I would like to think most people are good people, and if they had a choice, they would be more willing to spread positivity than negativity. So things like, it's not even a case of just um say I'm not upsetting someone with my own words or doing something to hurt someone else. Sometimes it's being quiet, like not talking when I don't have anything positive to add. That in itself is an action that's gonna have an effect, because I've not stopped
Mm.
the positive thing that has been said by someone else from taking hold and
Yeah.
being absorbed by somebody, that kind of thing. And it can come in all sorts of ways, but
Yeah.
it's recognizing that we all have the power to do that and actively choosing how we use that power, basically.
Something I'm really interested in, which kind of links into it, is about being in the present as much as possible
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah,
to raise awareness. And I'm human, so it doesn't always work. Um, but when you try to be present, as in, let's not worry about the future and let's
mhm,
not be mad or sad about the past. Let's just observe what's happening now. And when that happens, it's like the ego goes away. It kind of melts away, and all of a sudden, the person I am comes to the forefront.
yeah,
And so I find that when I am able to, which is uncommon at the minute, because I'm human, and that's the key.
yeah,
Um, but when I am able to, I'm more productive. I'm
mhm,
happier. I feel like I am making a difference in the world. And so I feel what you're talking about, a superpower, is very much linked to
yes,
that.
definitely,
That conscious choices that you make to make you and the people around you better for being there.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Uh, I like the conversation around being in the present. Because the most important time is the present. The past can't be changed, and the future is like you never reach there. You
Sure.
can only ever be in the present, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, like the way I approach like those three sort of like aspects of time, if you want to call it that, is if it's happened in the past, yes, it might have made me feel a certain way then.
Yeah.
That feel How I feel about it now is very much my choice. Yes, it might be difficult to let go completely, if even at all, about how it feels or how it made me feel, but I have some control over that. I have some say in that, and I need to actively
Yeah.
try and make sure I feel how I want to feel.
Yeah.
But what's happened in the past is like reading a history book. Um, but this time the history book is your experiences. You remember things, so you learn from it. So the past is there to teach me how to enjoy the present and live for not even live the future, plan for the future.
Sure.
So that's my relationship with the past. The future, because it's always coming. all you can do with the future is plan for it,
Yes.
and when you get there, it will be the present, and then you can then carry out your plans, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
You
and
can use the
adapt.
past to inform the future, but all everything we're doing is still in the present. So yeah, um, I just rambled on a bit there about time,
Not at
but
all. It's
I,
really interesting because um, especially when it comes to trauma, and maybe this is something that you recognize, is that when you're living in the present, the trauma that you have in your life isn't really in your mind and allows you to function a bit more
yeah,
um, competently or consciously, shall we say.
hmm
Whereas I'm sure, and again, you're a human too, right? There's going to be
yeah,
moments in your life when you think, why did that happen to me?
definitely,
When you get into the past, and
definitely.
so how do you come to terms with those moments?
Well, firstly, the assumption there is that I have come to terms with them. Um, so I, I, mm, I, I wouldn't say I've come to terms with everything completely. There's still things that, maybe that's more me being open-minded to constantly improving and learning from everything I've experienced, including, obviously the major incident of my accident.
Sure.
Um, but the much I have come to terms with, um, that obviously came with time. Firstly, um, I've sort of learned because things can only happen over time, and most likely are not going to be instant. Well, I don't need to give myself a hard time for not being where I want to be yet, so I can relax a bit and just go through, not necessarily go through the motions, but go through the emotions. If it makes me feel a certain type of way, then I don't need to fight that feeling. I can go through that feeling, and once I'm done expressing that feeling, chances are I've sort of left like a good chunk of that feeling in the past, that kind of thing. So things like if I'm upset about something, it's not a case of, well, no, if I'm upset about the accident and disability and that sort of thing, which obviously happens, it's not a case of being angry. Say for instance, being angry at my friend who's driving, or being angry at the how unfair it is that it's happened to me
Yeah.
and not someone else, that kind of thing, and the million and one chances that
Yeah.
I would have had this happen to me. Like, there's no point being angry at that. Yes, upset that it's happened, but being angry doesn't change anything, doesn't improve
Yeah.
anything. Um, there was I don't know who said this. It's one of those pictures with wise words and it or something, and it's attributed to someone. I don't know who actually said it, but anger is like holding onto a hot coal, like hoping to throw it at someone. You're angry at or something. You're angry
Yes.
about something. You're aiming the hot coal, but you're still holding it. You're the one still getting burnt by it.
Yeah.
There's a difference between anger and sort of pain, or suffering, or what's it called? Like just being upset. The anger is a completely different thing
Yeah.
entirely, and it's not necessary. Um,
Yes. And anger is a secondary emotion.
yeah,
So there's
it,
always a root cause that leads to anger. And
exactly.
and so that means anger therefore becomes a choice. You can confront the underlying emotion or you can be angry.
Yeah, anger is a choice. Wow. Okay. Yeah, anger is a choice. I've never actually said it in those words, but I definitely agree with it. That's definitely how I feel about anger.
Mm.
Um, it's almost like I guess if someone was like going to argue against that, they might say, "Oh, is it possible? Am I saying it's possible then to never get angry because you can choose every time not to be angry?" The answer is yes. Obviously, it's an ideal. It's a level of perfection if that exists, I
Yeah,
guess. So it's not going to be easy to get there. But
of course.
I can easily say that I have not acted in anger in quite a while, probably a few years now. Um, the anger, I get close to anger in terms of how I actually feel, but how I choose to act on that, yeah, that's where the choice comes in. That's where the anger manifests itself. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to. I mean, if it doesn't help the situation, there's no point in like feeling that. Like things like that. Not that I get angry at my staff, but there are things that could happen like with my staff, and I'm as much as I'm the client, I'm the employer as well, and I've sort of learned through that the best way to solve a solution isn't necessarily by getting emotional or letting your emotions affect it. So if
Sure.
something's upset me or I'm not okay with it, that sort of thing, um, getting to the solution of the problem wouldn't be through anger. It wouldn't be through lashing out or
Yeah.
acting from emotion. It's observing, breaking things down, and working through the steps to actually find that solution, that kind of thing. So yeah, anger is definitely a choice. I completely agree with that statement.
Great. Iffy, we're coming towards the end of the podcast, I think. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Oh, same
As I
here.
said before a couple of weeks ago when we were planning this, I've some quick fire questions.
Yeah,
And you don't know what they are.
I have no idea what those are.
Are you ready for some quick fire questions?
Let's hope I answer them quickly. I'm used to that. Crack on.
Sorry, my connection went a little bit there. I'll edit that bit out. What did you say?
I was saying like, well, with how much I talk, I don't know what quick fire questions are. But yeah, I'll give it a go anyways.
So I suppose in as short a time as possible without thinking about it.
Oh, I'm being sarcastic. Like, I know what they are. Just I'm really bad with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll give my best shot.
Great. So yeah, just try. I suppose what we said is try not to think about it. Just react.
Okay.
Okay. So quick fire question number one.
hmm
What is one piece of advice you'd give to yourself when you're half your current age?
Be patient. Wait.
Okay. In 10 years' time, what is one piece of advice you would give to yourself?
No matter where you are, be happy with everything, everywhere you've been, and look forward to where you will be.
That was much quicker, by the way. What do you like most about yourself?
That's a tough one. I can't go that one quickly. Not that I don't like things about myself, but there are a lot of things I'm happy about and proud of. No, my achievement. Jesus Christ, that was not quick. My achievement.
Do you want to expand on that for me?
Oh yeah. So with becoming more aware of who I was and who I am now, I'm also aware of where I was, say, straight immediately after the accident, and where I am now. And there's a lot of things I'm happy about. Within that time,
Mm,
about the last 11 years now, um, I I have to give myself credit for a lot of the stuff that's gone on there. It's definitely not been something I've achieved myself, but
sure.
I am happy with the part I played in all of that.
Yeah.
And it's almost like if we're saying the past is gone and the future is never getting here, I'm just me is the me that exists now. Then I'm very happy with past me for going through yesterday and the day before that and the years before that, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I look forward to seeing what future me will get up to. But yeah, I'm pretty proud of my achievements.
Great answer. What are you most proud of? That kind of links in, doesn't it?
Yeah, that links in. Oh, I said my achievements again.
Brilliant. What is the most important challenge society is facing that nobody is talking about?
Self awareness. Um, I say that so we're very aware of things that happen around us, and that's what news is entirely. Like the news in um, you sat in your living room, and the news is telling you about things that happen in countries all around and on the other side of the planet. But we're getting someone else to tell us about someone else, something else, or somewhere else. How much are we actually looking inwards to know about ourselves? That sort of thing. It's not mainstream. It's not something that's taught in school. It's not something that we're conditioned to teach our kids on a daily basis. It's almost like you have to discover the ability to know yourself, and that's a big shame, because a big part of why a lot of problems we have now in the world exist is because people don't know themselves, and if you don't know yourself, then someone's gonna tell you who you are, and that might not necessarily be true. So yeah, I could go on about that, but yeah. So what did I say? Self awareness.
Brilliant. Iffy, thanks so much for your time. It's a
It's an
pleasure to have
absolute
you.
pleasure. Absolute pleasure being here. Thanks for inviting me, Adam.
And I'm sure we'll speak very soon off air.
Sure.
All the best. Bye for now.
You take care, Adam.